Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining. This is Sprint demos for Sprint 27, which will be Fleet v4.55.0, codename Cobalt. The agenda today is we're going to demo user stories by feature category. So we're going to start with MDM features that both product groups have contributed to. Sharon is going to introduce the endpoint ops contributors to MDM features, and George will introduce the MDM product group contributors. When demoing, open up the story and share the user story so that we can kind of understand the starting point of the feature. We all see how user stories start, and then it'll be helpful to have that kind of intro context going into seeing how the feature works and help us understand what's the pain that we were trying to solve and what's the value that we're delivering to our customers. And then, of course, we've been focused a lot on writing guides and documentation. So if there are any guides that were written as a part of the user story, make sure to point those out so that everybody knows where they can find them. So with that, some really exciting things to show today. Endpoint Ops has been focused on iOS and iPadOS MDM features like apps, installing apps with the app stores, enforcing OS versions. So pretty big step forward in MDM maturity for us, and handing it off to Sharon to introduce.
Okay, thank you, Luke. The first thing we'll present is the ability to install Apple Store applications on iOS and iPads. And Victor and Jacob worked on this feature, and Jacob will start presenting it. Jacob, take it.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'll just read the user story here. I guess I'll share it. Stop. This is, and the order of the demos here is not exactly indicative of the order of the work. So this story actually built within the sprint directly on top of the MDM team's macOS version of the story, which they'll describe shortly. So that happened kind of in conjunction a little bit before this. As an IT admin, I want to install apps on my iOS or iPadOS hosts using Apple's volume purchasing program. And then they did macOS, so that I can install software on my conference room, iPads, and iOS engineers' phones. So now sharing, actually, let's bring it in here. So I'm having some demo god MDM enrollment issues. So Victor is going to show you the actual install, but basically the way this works is we now have these App Store VPPs. I'll turn that off. I was wondering why the Fleet UI looks so funny. We have these pieces of software that are from the Apple App Store that are made available to the Fleet administrator to add to a team for install to their devices. So, for example, if we add let's find an iPad, Microsoft Word for iPadOS. Yeah, add that to our iPad team here. And that now shows up here. And if my enrollment was working correctly, we would be able to go to this iPad and then install it. And that is what Victor is going to show you. Yeah, that's it for my portion. Go ahead, Victor.
All right, thank you, Jacob, for starting it off. So let me run through this flow. So I have been testing with some software already, as you can see. I'm going to add Fitbit. And one note here, as you can see, we're differentiating the platforms here. It is possible for the same app identifier, Apple app identifier, and bundle identifier to be the same for all three of these platforms. So we have a couple examples where they are the same. So we had to kind of handle that. So I'm going to add Fitbit, add software. Then I'm going to go to my host, my iPad. If you look at we can search here for Fitbit, and we can see it's available for install. Alternatively, and in my opinion faster, you can do drop down available for install, and you can see it here available for install. So I'm going to go ahead and install it, but before I do, I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi on my device just so we can see the pending activity. So I'm going to say install. That will send the MDM command. Now if I go to details, upcoming, you can see a message here, upcoming. So now I will turn Wi-Fi back on. And I'm not sure exactly about the timing. There we go, it went through. So we installed this app. It is loading on my device down here. So one caveat here is we are assuming that the users will not delete the apps. And this is something we'll pick up in the next sprint. Because if a user deletes the app, we want to disassociate the license for that app. So we are kind of assuming at this point the end user will not be deleting these apps that we installed. Another thing I want to mention is this whole page, this whole software page for iOS and iPad is new. Previously, we did not show software, so now we are fetching software with this, and we can manually fetch it using this refetch. So if we refetch, and then we see Fitbit, and you see it's installed. It just got installed, and we have the version here. One other thing to mention is that we did increase the precision on the timestamps for MDM commands. So now they're more likely to be in order. So previous precision was 1 second. So now they're like in microsecond range. Another thing I wanted to show is now we have also details page like this, software details page. And the versions will show up after the vulnerability job runs, because vulnerability job does all the counts and aggregating software, etc. So after that runs, we'll see the version that we installed. Let me go to a different app that's installed to see. So see for the calculator, we see the version here. Let me see if anything I missed. Another thing to mention is that the apps that you see are only apps that have been installed through VPP or through the App Store. So we're not seeing kind of the Apple apps that come with the device. Another thing that we don't have here is vulnerabilities. Is this supposed to be different, Jacob? So basically, we did not add vulnerability handling for iPad and iOS apps in this sprint. Okay, that's it for this feature. Back to you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Jacob and Victor. Awesome. And I should say there's a...
Actually, can I add one more thing? The documentation, right? So we do have an article. Sorry to cut you off, Sharon. That will be the combined article for macOS and macOS VPP and iOS iPad VPP. So we'll have an article and a guide coming out. Back to you, Sharon.
Yeah, that's actually what I want to say, that we have a guide that is in last review process, and we should get used to saying, obviously, there's a guide for that. That's the new thing. So thank you again, Jacob and Victor. Next, we have Lucas and Rachel presenting the ability to set an OS version for iPad and iPhones. Lucas or Rachel, who's taking it?
I'm going to start and then Lucas is going to jump in. So let's go ahead and open up our user story here. So this is the main user story. And we have two kind of related tickets that we're also going to talk about in a second. So this is to add operating system update requirements for iPads and iPhones. And as an IT admin, I want to configure OS updates for iOS and iPadOS so that I can ensure my company-owned iPhones and iPads are up to date. So this is our user story. We are adding two new things to our MDM configuration. So if you are on the main app, you can go ahead and go to Controls. And under the OS Updates tab, you scroll down to Targets. And you will see now that if you have Apple MDM configured, you are going to have these three tabs. And if you have Windows configured, you'll have a Windows tab here, but I don't have it on my dev environment. So we just have these three. And it's going to work similar to the macOS update requirement where you set a minimum version and a deadline, but now it's going to be for iPhones, which they will see this preview here of what it will look like, and iPads as well. And this is a preview for iPads. So here you can see I have my minimum version set to 17.5.1 and my deadline is August 3rd. The second ticket that's on that list is if you go to the host section, this is now added. If you go to a specific host under operating system, if they have a minimum required version set, there will be this tooltip. And if it meets it, you'll see a meet minimum version requirement tooltip. And I'm going to go ahead and switch my iPad to not meet the minimum version requirement. So I'm going to go to 18.0. I'm going to set tomorrow's date. And I'm going to go ahead back to my iPad. And you can now see that they get this little error icon saying that it does not meet the minimum version requirement. So this is the second ticket that's kind of related to this. It's just a little front end change. And then I also have my iPad here. So for the end user with their iPad, if the minimum version requirement is in the future, the way that they're going to see that is they're going to search for MDM in their settings. And under that, they can see their mobile device management. And there's an option for configurations to see what is configured on their iPad. And we can see here that it says required software update 18.0. And if you click onto that, you can see more details that it's required by noon tomorrow. So this is how you set it for an iPad. And I think Lucas wanted to just show you that the same thing is for iPhone as well.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. All right. So I think I have this is the iPhone I have. So currently, I think my local instance has, let me just check that. So if I go to iPhone team, iOS, I have 18, but August the 10th. So, and if we go to my, can you see the iPhone? If I go here, do you see the iPhone there?
Yeah.
Or maybe, okay. So if I go to settings, well, if I go like settings at the beginning, you should probably go to MDM there. Then you visit the MDM and you'll see there are configurations at the bottom there. And it says, okay, require software update, required by 10 of August, right? So that's cool. What I'm going to show now is I'm going to force it so that it upgrades to 18, the beta, and using GitOps. That was part of the user story. So I have a team here. I have a team. The team is called, I think it's called iPhones. No, wait. Teams, I always forget. iPhones. Yeah. So we're going to change this. We have a new section here called iOS updates on GitOps, where you can set this, the same, similar to iPadOS updates. And I think the existing is macOS updates and so on. We're gonna set it to yesterday. And we're gonna apply this config with GitOps. So by running this, it will run GitOps. And now let me see. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember exactly how long it takes. Let me just try again. Maybe we have to refresh a little bit, but it should force me to upgrade. It's still 10, so we might need to wait a little bit. Let me see in Fleet if this is in setting Fleet. iPhones, iOS. Okay, this is there. So let me just go back to the phone. And eventually I should get a warning saying, okay, you have to update. All right, I think, so look at this. If you go to update, I think it started to download the iOS 18 in the background. And after it downloads it, it will actually force me and not allow me to use the phone until I accept the upgrade. So we're not gonna wait for this. So I think this is it on the iPhone side and GitOps.
Okay, thank you, Rachel and Lucas. Next, we have Rachel and Tim presenting the ability to add software to a no team group. Currently, we only have it for teams. Team is off today, so we present no team with no team. Just Rachel. Rachel, take it.
Oh, that's been an ongoing joke in Endpoint Ops group. Yeah, so welcome to the Rachel shows. Tim actually did a bunch of backend work for this feature, so I'm going to go ahead and read out the user story for you and then dig into the UI. So our goal is to add software to no teams. And as a Fleet user, I want to be able to add software to no team so that I can manage software if I'm not using team segmentation. So we do have a few customers that do not use teams. And so this is really pretty high priority request. So if you go to the software tab as of 4.54, you did not have a no teams view here. It was only all teams and all the different teams that you had. So we've added the no teams view to this. And the specific request was to be able to add software to the no teams. But in researching that, we realized that we need to add functionality for software for everything no teams. So we have functionality to see software that's on no teams, operating systems that are on no teams, the vulnerabilities that are on no teams, and all of the different details pages you are able to now see using no teams. So this was a lot of backend work to make sure that all of these APIs work correctly to target the group of hosts that are not on a team, and then also to make sure that the counts are correct for all of them as well. So shout out to Tim, who's not here right now, but he's the one who did most of that backend work. So I'm just going to show you guys right now that I have two hosts that are on no teams. I have my iPad and myself. And I am going to go to software, and on no teams, I'm now able to click on this add software. And you can either add the apps from the PPP store, or you can add a package. I'm just going to go ahead and choose a file. Hopefully I deleted these off my thing. And I'm just going to use Fleet OS Query Package because that's the one that I use the most. Just to get my dev environment all up and running. And so this might take up to a few minutes because it actually has to make a copy of that, that software. So here we can see now our software is updated here, wonderfully refreshed. Thank you, Jacob, for fixing that front end bug. And you can see this software can be installed on the host details page. So now when I go to a host on my host details page, also, thank you, Victor, for this open blur. If we go to software now and we go to available for install, you should see that software on here. So this now is happening for a user that is on no teams. Cool.
Okay, thank you. This was the last MDM feature, so I'll take it back to you, Luke. But before I get it back to you, just want to say, since this video gets worldwide publicity, I'll use it to congratulate Tim for his 1-year anniversary tomorrow. So, Tim, if you're watching us, congrats. Back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Great work, Endpoint Ops, and awesome to see the iOS and iPad OS work coming together. Next, we're going to go over to the MDM product group for their MDM features. Some really cool VPP work on the macOS, kind of the same thing as we just saw, but on the macOS side. Also, some exciting things around enrolling Linux on ARM64 hosts. Enrolling them in Fleet, which has been this is issue 1845. So this has been around for a long time request, and excited that we're shipping it. So handing it over to George to introduce.
All right, getting us started off today is Dante with Linux for ARM and dropping support for MySQL 5.7 officially.
All right. Hey, thank you. Let me share my screen. So this is the first issue I'll be showing off today. Hold on, I just have to move my top bar here. Enrolling Linux on ARM64 hosts. As an endpoint user, I want to generate a Fleet agent with and without Fleet desktop that I can install on Linux ARM64. So the quickest demo I can give to start off is by showing you here in dog food. It's not currently active because the machine's turned off, but we have a Debian Linux AArch64 machine. This has been enrolled and it's been tested and everything works great. If we look here at my local TUF server, we can see all of our components have Linux ARM64 binaries. We have it for Orbit, we have it for Fleet Desktop. The Fleet client is currently able to pull these in and do a package generation, and I'll show that right here. So if we do fleetctl package, we can see that we have one new argument here. It's the arch argument, which will let you specify which processor architecture you want to create a package for. It's currently supported for both Debian and RPM packages, and defaults to AMD 64. So let's get a little demo of that. If we want to create a basic without Fleet Desktop ARM64 package, all we have to do is fleetctl package, type Debian Arch ARM64, and then your Fleet secret, which I won't be doing here because it's not required just to generate the package. It'll generate our Fleet D agent, and that's just going to take a second. So this is currently pulling it from the actual main Fleet TUF server, and there we go. We have our Fleet OS query ARM64.deb package. We can, of course, also run this with Fleet Desktop. And this should probably overwrite our other package, but let's take a quick peek. Generating our package again. And once this is done, you should be able to just drag and drop this into a Linux ARM64 host, and it'll install and enroll your Fleet. Yeah, it just overwrote the old package, but this one now includes Fleet Desktop, which works as well. Yeah, that's the first issue. Very happy about that one. So all the Raspberry Pi fans can now go crazy with Fleet. Getting an army of Raspberry Pis running MDM features and all. Let's see. And then the next feature I'll be showing off. Oh my God, that would be crazy. If someone has like 64 Raspberry Pis running, hitting the Fleet server. The next feature will be, we dropped support for MySQL 5.7 in favor of MySQL 8. This feature was just MySQL 5.7 has lost official support and has been holding us back on a handful of queries we want to issue that can't run on 5.7. The fix for this was not too bad, and just involved a lot of number changing, actually, tons of it. You can see here all of our infrastructure now uses MySQL 8. And I can demonstrate this. Here we have our local MySQL server. Oops, I just closed the tab. This is running on the main branch. If we do select version, you can see we're running 8.0.36. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Is that the minimum version? 8.0.
That is currently the minimum version, yes.
All righty, thank you, Dante. Next up, we have Gabe with a new renewal banner for the VPP token.
Hello, share my screen. So yeah, this is the story we're talking about. So add a renewal banner for the VPP token. As a fleet user, I want to know when my VPP token is about to expire so that I can renew this token before the VPP service stops working. In addition to this, actually not written here, is there will also be a banner when it has expired. So you'll know that it has and you'll need to take some action. But if I go to my application here, make this a bit bigger for everyone, I have VPP enabled already. I've uploaded a token already. I'm going to do a little magic here, which should change my token to be within 30 days of expiring. So if I refresh the page, you'll see a warning banner up here with basically a message saying your token is 30 days from expiring. And this over here is a link to some documentation where they can figure out how to prevent that from happening, which will tell them to go to this screen, integrations, the volume purchase program, go back into edit here, and then renew your token. I have a token here that will work. So I'm gonna upload that. I just realized that we wanna get rid of the banner when we've uploaded it, but that did upload a new token. So I'm gonna make that fix after this, and now it's gone. The other case I mentioned was when it actually has expired. Well, let's see if this works the way I think it's going to. So this did a little magic to give me a token that has expired. So messaging here, telling the user that the token has expired. This will link to the same documentation, which will show them the same steps of uploading a valid token. And same issue where I'm gonna be looking into fixing this where the warning will go away. But that's it. Any questions on that?
Awesome, thank you, Gabe. Looks great.
Sorry, one last thing I forgot to mention. This banner you see is application wide. So whichever page they're on, they'll be seeing this. So really calling to the attention of the user that they'll need to take this action. And that's it.
Awesome, thank you so much. Next, we have Haziel, looking at enforcing disk encryption when macOS hosts automatically enroll, as well as installing App Store apps on macOS.
Hey, gang.
Haziel, there we go. I was
All
just going to say you were muted, but you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first one we have here is enforcing disk encryption for macOS. So the user story is, as an IT admin that turns on MDM features, I want Fleet to enforce disk encryption on my host by default so that disk encryption is enforced on my hosts. So this is essentially making the disk encryption part of the setup assistant flow. So there's no way to finish setting up the machine without setting up disk encryption. And it's set up as soon as the machine starts up. So I'm going to try something a little strange here. Let me know if this is not working. But I have a camera that I can point at my MacBook because this won't work with a VM. So does that, I'm trying to see if that is even working. I'm totally winging this, by the way, in case y'all couldn't tell. All right, so this is in Setup Assistant. And so I went through the previous screens just because it was going to take too long to do it all live. But you can see here that FileVault disk encryption is now, it's turned on because I have it set up that way in my, I guess I can show that really quickly. So I have disk encryption turned on in my local fleet server. So now I can't get past the screen without going through this, and I can't toggle that on or off. So I hit continue, and the machine should finish setting up, and we should have FileVault on. So, and you can see it's been configured by a profile. So this is just an additional setting that we put into the FileVault profile that we send to hosts when they're MDM enrolling. Cool. So that's that. And the next thing is the infamous VPP story that a lot of folks have already demoed quite a bit of the functionality. I guess this is just going to show off that it works on macOS too. So if we go and look at the MacBook Air that I just set up, and okay, while that's fetching, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and try to add some software. So you see here we have our wonderful list of all of our VPP software. And yeah, I'm doing this in NoTeam, which is pretty cool. Shout out to the work that was done for that. So I'm just going to go with Evernote and go ahead and add that. And so now if I go back to my MacBook Air and I search for Evernote, should be able to go ahead and install this guy. And I just need to let it cook for a bit. Okay, so the MDM command went through. There's usually a bit of a delay between the MDM command being acknowledged and the thing actually installing, but we're gonna do the old camera trick again. And oh, it literally just popped up right there. I don't know if everyone can see it. But yeah, there it is. So that's pretty much it on that end. A lot of the other functionality is similar to what has already been demoed, so I won't go through it all again. But yeah, that's it.
All righty, thank you so much. Next up, we have Roberto showing off the new timeline for SCEP renewals and rotating FileVault without a prompt.
Hey, everybody. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to start with the renew SCEP certificates 180 days before expiration. The user story is, as an IT admin, I want Fleet to automatically renew the SCEP certificates installed on my host 180 days from expiration, so that my SCEP certificates don't expire when an end user goes on parental leave, and thus I don't have to turn on MDM again on these macOS hosts. So the context for this, we were renewing SCEP certificates 30 days prior to renewal. Starting this release, we'll do 188, which is what most MDMs do. It is not cool to show what happens like in a live demo, but Thanks to Gabe for these screenshots. Basically, there is a cron job that runs every hour, and we choose 180 days before the skip even expires, we'll renew it. So that ensures the host is always able to communicate with the server for MDM. That's it, that for that feature. And the second one is more exciting. It's rotate FileVault disk encryption key without prompt. FileVault means it shows macOS. So as an IT admin, I want to scroll my end user's recovery key when they log out or restart their computer. So fleet that rotate FileVault keys without prompting the end user for their local macOS password. I know if you, many of you probably suffered through this when there is an existing, the disk is already encrypted prior to the host being delivered the profile, the FileVault profile. Fleet cannot enroll, cannot scroll the key unless the user resets the key. And that used to involve like a convoluted setup going through Fleet desktop, clicking on a banner, and basically nobody did it. So Ryan, starting with this release, we are going to use a popular Mac admin tools. Several of our customers are actually using this alongside Fleet, called Escrow Buddy. And it's kind of magical. Let me show you. What I have here is a VM in that specific state. It has this encryption on, but it was previously encrypted, so Fleet is not able to decrypt the key or escrow the key. So the user will send this banner, but we'll see this banner. And eventually, if they don't follow what the banner is saying, eventually at some point, if they'll just log out or restart the computer, under the hood, the next time they log in, what Escrow Buddy does is grabs the username and password. It's an authorization plugin and rotates the disk encryption key. So that's what's happening right here under the hood. So we'll see here in a minute. The user doesn't necessarily have to click on refetch. This will happen automatically every hour, but just to speed things up, what is happening now under the hood, we are retrieving the encrypted version of the key to the Fleet server. It might take just a minute. While that's, yeah, so that just, the banner went away, and now we are verifying the disk encryption key. It will eventually move to verified once we ensure that we're able to decrypt the key successfully. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Roberto. And last, we have Sarah with improving the description of OS settings pending status.
Thanks, George. Yeah, so this one is it's a quiet story. It's a quiet little story. I don't have a lot of exciting smash cuts or shaky cam for you, but our story is, as an IT admin or an end user, I want to know if my profiles are pending because the host is offline or if an action is required so I can understand better what's happening on the host. Really, this story involved kind of cleaning up some of our tooltips from before, where we had some tooltips that implied, that everything that was pending was because the host was offline, where in reality, some things require action, such as what Roberto just showed off with rotating disk encryption. So we've updated it to make it a little bit more, less misleading, right? Less confusing. So that's that story.
All righty, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, and the end goal is once you click into there, each individual one can say action required pending or enforcing pending, as we all know. All right, that concludes MDM new features. Back to you, Luke.
Awesome. Thanks, team. Looking great. Find the right agenda. Next, back to endpoint ops for endpoint ops features. Over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, two more features on the endpoint ops side. Victor will present some new things to the maintenance window and also an improvement of the host identifier API. Take it, Victor.
Thank you, Sharon. So the story here, there's two maintenance window stories. This one, as an end user who deletes or move my maintenance window to a time in the past. So basically, if you're deleting the calendar event or moving it to the past, I want to see a new maintenance window pretty quickly. So we tried to actually put this into the last sprint, but we had some snags in load testing. So with some additional fixes, hopefully it's going in now. I also made a backup video in case the demo doesn't go so well. And the other feature, so I'm going to demo both of them, is update existing maintenance window descriptions. So when a policy changes, so when you change the description, mitigation of the policy, then we want to kind of update the text, the body text in the calendar events. So let's demo both of these. So I have a host that's failing some policies. So I'm going to go to policies, manage automations. I'm going to enable calendar event. I'm going to save. And then every 5 minutes, the cron runs. So I'm going to manually trigger it. So this should create a calendar event on my calendar for next Tuesday. And it's right there. So we do have a story to look at out of office time, FYI. So now let's go ahead and delete this event. So what happens now is that the callback from Google is sent back to the Fleet server. The Fleet server checks the event. It sees the event is deleted and it reschedules it. And this calendar web view only updates so often. So to speed it up, I can refresh it. And you see the event is on the next day. So now let's look at the other features. So in this event, I have this text. So if I go back to my policies, and which policy did I add? Disable guest account. So I can go here and I can modify it and remove this or not and save it. Also made it critical. Hope that doesn't critically make it fail. And it's the body text is refreshed on a cron job. So I'm going to run the cron job. Then go back to the calendar. So this is the old text with or not. So I'm going to click on the event again. And you see the text is gone. And similarly, if I go and add another failing policy that this host is failing, and I rerun the cron, we will get a generic message on the calendar, kind of a default message. So those are the maintenance window features. We will, Sharon, let me see, Sharon has been working on some documentation, so we will be publishing some documentation pretty soon on maintenance windows. It's quite a good amount of documentation. So thank you, Sharon. So the last one I wanted to cover is the small feature, exclude software when using this host identifier endpoint. And this was actually brought up by a customer, and I believe the customer actually made a PR, and I just had to fix some unit tests for it right here. James Kane. I'm going to go ahead and demo that. So without exclude software, I can get host details. And here I have software. So we have 5 software items here. And then if I add exclude software, software equals true, software equals 1, and rerun it, I no longer have software here. That's it for me. Back to you, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Victor, and Luke, back to you. This is concluding the features, and back to you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Awesome to see especially the customer contributed feature. That's really cool, and thank you for writing the test around that and getting it over the finish line. Next, I believe, are going to go back to George and the MDM product group for MDM improvements and bug fixes.
Alrighty, first we have Dante with a couple of bug fixes to show. I'll let him list them. There's 4.
All right, hello. Let me share my screen again. The first bug fix here was an issue with GitOps for Fleet software, where we were supporting the old Fleet apply format, which looks like this. Let me zoom in. Hold on. It has this spec and kind at the top, whereas we wanted to be using the new GitOps format, which is just a top-level list. That now works in software in GitOps. There's not much to show for this in particular, because it's kind of just a small formatting fix, but we did add new tests for it. And we even support the old format just in case any customers happen to be using it. So nothing should break, but now we do support the new format with the top-level lists. The second bug, which is actually...
Is there another story for to add inline query?
That didn't get done as part of this, but I'm going to make a new story for the inline query. I closed this one out and didn't create the new one yet. I did it just yesterday, just in time for the release. Yeah. The next feature is a very interesting one submitted by a customer. Lockout feature broken for enterprise environments. So what was happening was our previous lockout script for Linux involved going through the password file and checking user IDs between two ranges, which are the local minimum and maximum for user accounts. But a customer noticed that this didn't work for Active Directory and free IPA uses. And the reason is that they use user IDs that are both not in the password file because it's not a user that's local to the machine and was beyond the bounds of what we had specified. So what we do instead is we use the PAM no login feature, which is available on both Ubuntu and Fedora, which are our supported distributions, and also most distributions that use PAM, which is almost all of them. And the way it works is instead of creating just a password -l like we did previously, we create a file called etc no login. And that file, if it's present on the Linux box, will actually stop any user except for root from logging in, even if the user is not local to the machine. This actually presented a new bug where systemd on Linux, which is the init system that we've had for probably close to a decade, added a sneaky little service called systemd user session, which will automatically delete the etc no login file on boot. And this is a feature you'd only notice if you create the no login file, reboot, and then users would be allowed to log back in. Now, this file is actually core to the way systemd works, and you can't disable it. But what you can do is you can mask it, which is you tell systemd mask this file, and it creates a new fake service that points to dev null, which will stop it from running the original. And I can actually demo this. So you can see I have 2 machines here. One, this is a free IPA server, and I have a user called Zonte, and that's the current user on this machine. Realizing it doesn't actually show you anywhere in the UI, so who am I? I'm Zonte. If I go to my fleet control, this is the machine, and I lock it. We should see this user get kicked out and locked in a second. And the way we do this is instead of iterating over the passwd file, we use the users command, which let's see if I can issue it before it gets locked out. We'll show you the logged in users. They don't have to be specified in the password file. That's because it parses a separate file on the system that logs all interactive, like via SSH or via terminal logins. And you can see we're logged out. Now, if I go to log in, we get this little message locked by administrator, and you can't log in anymore. And if we try to reboot, no, I would not like to install anything on reboot. We'll see it'll still be locked. The only thing is when you reboot, the message is going to be different because despite the fact that the user sessions daemon is masked, systemd still adds another file to replace the one it deletes, and you can't change that. That's actually part of the way the daemon works. You'll see it says system booting up. So disabling the userd login sessions will stop it from deleting this file, but you can't get it to change that text no matter what you do unless you actually modify core systemd files, which maybe we can do in the future, but felt like a little bit too far, but you won't be able to log in at all. The root user will still be able to log in as per the spec. It'll show the message, but it'll log in. But no users, whether they're local or Active Directory, will be able to log in. Yeah, so the root just logged in. The next bug was, there's also not much to show here, implement soft delete. We had an issue where users, I don't have any deleted hosts here, which is the reason I can't show it off. If you had installed software on a system and then deleted that host, when you went into the main activity log, you clicked show details, it wouldn't be able to show you the install log of that software because we were doing joins on the host, which was deleted. But that's been removed, and we now reference a host through a deleted column. And this is the last bug where we now have a fleetd logs table on OS Query, which allows people to query the state of fleetd. And it works rather well, but this user discovered that if you set your time zone to UTC, in some cases, it will use a different time format than it does in other cases because of the logging library we use. I believe it's Zerolog. And the fix for this was rather easy. We just changed the format from this, where we specified that we had previously thought that always it would have an offset, to RFC 339, which can sometimes replace that offset with a Z in the case where it's UTC. And that wraps up the bugs that from this release with my name on them. So thank you.
All righty, thank you. Next, we have Gabe with some updates.
Yes. Okay. So the first bug I'm going to show is, or the first bug fix I'm going to show is a problem we were having with the VPP, or not VPP, sorry, the app-wide banners. So I'm just going to bring up the banner like I did before. So you don't see anything here really, but this banner was not showing on the first render. So a user would go to their dashboard page and they would not be seeing the banner until they went to the next page. So just make sure that we're showing it on the initial page load. So that's the first issue. And the next bug fix was kind of a little bit of a polish issue. So there's a modal on the policies page. If you go to manage automations and go to other workflows, I have to slow things down a bit just because it happens quite fast. This is a new pattern, UX pattern we're going to be using. If I change this to something else, and then I click save, you're going to see an overlay, basically disable the form inputs. So it already happened, but I'll do that again real quick. So the user won't be able to interact or change any of the inputs while the form is updating. There it goes again. And that's a pattern that we're going to be adding to all the modal forms that we have. So you should start seeing that across a bunch of these modal forms in the future. And that's it.
All righty, thank you, Gabe. Next, we have Roberto with one for DB packages.
Hey again. This is actually a community contribution as well. It's just assigned to me because to do like the creating an issue so we can QA it, fixing some tests, stuff, minor stuff like that. But the problem was with dev packages that our Oscar query to ingest them was using like this exact string, but sometimes packages can be installed, but be on hold or in other states, which means like they are not getting updated automatically, etc. So the change here is to modify the query to report the software as long as it's installed to Fleet, and that's pretty much it.
Alrighty, thank you. And then last we have Sarah.
Hey again. Yeah, small little bug fix for you here, where we were having an issue with not refreshing this this modal. So if you were to go to the show details, you might see in this case it's still pending, but if it were to succeed, and you close the modal, it would still show as pending. So what we're doing now is refreshing this on close. And that's part of a, I think more general effort to refresh our data in modals across the app.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And that concludes the MDM bug fixes.
Great.
Back to you, Luke.
Nice work, y'all. Thank you. And last but not least, over to Sharon and Endpoint Ops for their bug fixes and improvements.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Jacob with a few bugs on the calendar and other. Jacob, take it.
So again. So let's see. Yeah, the first bug I'm going to show you here was kind of a tricky edge case with the calendar feature. Basically, if there was an event scheduled from a previous version of Fleet, it might have a null time zone, which was causing some issues with reschedules. So basically, here's the problem. In short, if see here on my calendar, if we had a scheduled event in the past, in certain edge cases, it wasn't automatically getting rescheduled for the future. So we will show here, you can see my Mac is failing a policy, 2 policies actually, and we've got a maintenance window scheduled for August 9th. Now, if we simulate the buggy case by changing the time zone of that event to null and moving it to the past, so let's put it yesterday, there, August 1st, we should see pretty quickly it will successfully be rescheduled for the future. So there, next Monday, August 12th, 2 Mondays, August 12th. And if we refresh the database event, we'll see the time zones correctly updated to my calendar's time zone. And shout out to Victor for his work on the callbacks that make that happen so quickly. Pretty nice. There was a related bug that was also solved by this fix relating to the webhook from the calendar events that I won't demo, but that was solved by that as well. We also had a bug on the, where'd you go? On the hosts page. Sorry about that. Where, oh, this is the wrong meeting. Okay, I'll just summarize it. Basically, there was bugginess with the Fleet UI determining when there were next results or not. Basically, yeah, that's it. And that's solved now. So we see, let's look at a couple different views with different hosts. Correctly don't have a next option here, nor when there's 57 hosts. And that is the solution, or the solved bug. What else do we have? Yes, so we had a bug with adding software packages. So this was actually a joint unreleased and released bug that we discovered in the process of working on the VPP feature. So if we check out this commit, we should see that when we add software for install, say Google Chrome, by a package, get a success. Oh, maybe I need to refresh. That's the solved version. So that's the problem. Oh.
So Jacob, the checkout failed.
The
Okay,
first
you did it
checkout
again.
failed, yeah,
Don't worry.
because I
Yeah.
had some unstashed changes. Yeah. Already exists, so let's delete it. So now it should work. Well, the bug should be obvious. We add a package, and we still don't see it, right? We have to refresh the page. And we see the same bug for, now this is the new part. This was the unreleased bug. That part was released. We add that, and we don't see it either. Got to refresh. So go back to main and refresh our UI, and I'll just show you the solved version for EPP to save us a little time. We're adding bare markdown notes for macOS, and it automatically updates. A little trickier than it looks on the outset, but found a nice solution for that. And finally, I want to pop in a slight improvement still on this one that will be committed shortly. We had some funky behavior with the OS settings. This disk encryption table. This is the solution. Here's the you can see in the screenshot here, the Windows hosts column is still quite wide, even though we are wrapping the text in the status column, and we wanted to clean that behavior up a little bit, and so now it looks like this. So still wrapping the column, but we are shortening the Windows host column and adjusting some padding. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you, Jacob. And right to Rachel with a few bug fixes.
Everybody, we're staying in front end land. Let me go ahead and open our docs. So the first one I want to show you guys is kind of a weird one. It was we are looking at a no team view, and when we would switch to controls, which has a no team view, and we switch back to hosts, it would go to all teams. And so this was a little funky functionality because initially we only had no team view on the controls page, but since then we've added it to the host page and we've added it to the software page as of 455. And so now when we're on a no team view, when clicking between these three tabs, you should stay on no teams. because they all have no team view on here. So what happens when we go to a queries or policies tab? Those do not have a no team option as of now. So you can see that we are moved to the all teams view for queries and for policies. I think this is a bug here. We shouldn't see 0 queries on the initial empty state. If someone wants to write that in the thing. And then what happens if we're on an all teams view? We should stay on all teams no matter what tab we go to, unless there's no all teams view, which is controls. That's when you get bumped back to no teams view. So a little tricky UI, might need some redesign if we want to ensure that no teams view is viewable across all our tabs, and all teams view is viewable across all our tabs. But as of right now, it's not, so we're going to keep it where if you're on all teams, you'll stay on all teams as long as it's there, and same thing with no teams. Other UI fixes that went in, it's a little bit more updates to some specs that we missed on if we are updating iPad and iOS stuff. So we did a little bit more generic activities for configuration profiles since they're sent to Macs, iPads, and iPhones. So we just removed the sending it to macOS because it could also be on an iPad or iPhone. Same thing with I think it's the verifying status for configuration profiles on the host. I don't have one on me right now, but the tooltip mentions OS query for configuration profiles, but iPads and iPhones don't use them. And then just did a little bit of cleanup on specifically alignment. So here, this alignment is fixed. Thank you, Mike, for catching that. And then some alignment on some tooltips over here. And what else? And then just getting on my soapbox real quick. I want to shout out to the MDM team and my teammates for all working on adding software as a feature for macOS, iPadOS, iOS, and No Teams all in one sprint. So we've been diligently working in parallel, and this week it's when we all merged our code, and we've been running into the little snags of not being able to test our code until, the week of. So we're catching all of these unreleased bugs. So if you find any bugs, please go ahead and go to the Slack channel that Noah started a thread here, and to see if it's already on here. That way we don't take up engineering time, since we're all kind of switching context constantly, trying to fix bugs that we are newly finding, or somebody found and fixed, but they're out of town now, or someone found it's not a bug, so we don't want to think about it. So yeah, lots of work is going on right now behind the scenes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Next, we have Lucas presenting 2 fixes to the agent and 2 elements, your square in the fleet D. Lucas, I believe he will also talk about the timeline for the OS query. If you can, take it.
All right. So the issue is this one. I believe a prospect opened this issue with Dave. So the report was basically a crash on Fedora 40. And after some investigation and some collaboration with members from the OS Query community and the OS Query core team, we were able to actually find the issue and fix it. So, I mean, just to give a summary, the crash happened when querying this table, RPM packages. We use that table heavily to ingest software on RPM-based distributions like Fedora, CentOS, etc. The issue did not happen on CentOS 7 or 8 because for the RPM package database, CentOS uses Berkeley DB. So just to show a little bit about that. So if you go to bar leave RPM packages, you'll see that this is a Berkeley DB, and OS query uses librpm to read that Berkeley DB database on these systems. But Fedora 33, onwards, actually uses SQLite for the RPM database. So I have a Fedora here, so I can show that in a second. We can see here like the RPM, it's an SQLite file, right? So the reason I'm showing that is because OS query 581 upgraded their librpm library to 418, which for some reason the developers of librpm decided to configure the SQLite logger, and that causes that as you probably are aware of, OS query uses SQLite itself. So there were like 2 threads assuming that they configure the SQLite logger, and that caused like access to memory that shouldn't be accessing, and therefore a seg fault. The fix was basically upgrading. So we found on this link, you can see here. So as I said, OS query 581 upgraded to 418. That's actually the latest. And we found these release notes of 418.2 that had this weird database section. Don't muck with per process global SQLite configuration from the DB backend. So Stefano Bonicati from the OS query team actually upgraded to 418.2, and that fixed the issue. So we'll have a fix for this crash. We're pushing it so that we can have a patch release, maybe sometime next week. But it's not definite. We're in discussions with the OS query core team, but likely this fix will be present in 513.1 next week. So yeah, it was great collaboration with the OS query team. Next issue is this other issue, FleetD. So I'm not going to demo this because it's it's just about installing FleetD and not breaking, right? But what I'm just gonna explain real quick, this bug was one of the hardest bugs to reproduce because, at least for me, because there were a lot of conditions that needed to happen. Only one customer was able to reproduce this because only one customer is using this flag. This flag is used, I believe we use this in the cloud customers on just one of them because they have a lot of devices with duplicate hardware identifiers. So we set this to not break the database due to continuous enrollments. The other condition is, okay, orbit 128. This customer also does this. I'm not sure why. They have probably the reasons, but they do re-images of their devices, meaning that they install a fresh OS on the device and then install FleetD afterward, right? And that was causing, that re-enrollment was causing the issue. And then the other condition is that for this bug to happen is that you had to have these command line flags, extensions, or update channels in the agent options, which the customer did have. And the bug was also sporadic. So in any case, we fix it, and it's the fix is on 129, and it's already on the stable channel. And the bug was about basically you could not query FleetD tables, only OS query tables. Now that's fixed, and and it's already on the stable channel.
Okay, thank you, Lucas. Any questions about the timeline or anything? If not, last for today, we have Victor with the homebrew not flagging once. Take it, Victor.
Thank you, Sharon. So this is a bug, and we've been seeing this type of bug a couple times now. JetBrains IDEs like IntelliJ and PyCharm have this community edition, but there's no kind of differentiation in NVD between normal edition and community edition. So basically, we wanted to see the vulnerabilities for the community edition, specifically when it's installed via homebrew. So we fixed that, kind of similar fix that we did earlier with the normal community edition. So if I go to this host and search for IntelliJ, so we see that we have a version that with 3 vulnerabilities, and you see this extra version stuff. So this is something Homebrew adds. Also of note is that these are actually the same thing, right? Meaning IntelliJ Homebrew installs and then installs the actual app. So this app shows up twice, once from the app table and once from the Homebrew table. So when we're seeing this, these are actually the same app. That's it for this bug fix. Back to you.
And that's it for endpoint ops. Luke, conclusion.
Great job, everybody. Thank you for the great demos and all the work as always. We'll be shipping this release next week. Pretty cool code name, 4.455 Cobalt. I think next is Nickel, so won't sound quite as cool. But appreciate you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.